start.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Lead Stories podcast, where we believe that everyone has influence.
And if you are intentional with your influence, then you are a leader.
Yay.
This is the Lead Stories podcast, and we're glad you're here. I'm Pastor Steph.
And I'm Jo Saxton. Hi.
We are coming at you from...
Live on location.
Live on location.
On location.
Except it's not live, because they're not listening.
No, okay, just on location.
On location. I just realized that. Like, you can't...
You can't say live.
Right.
You can't say live unless you're live.
We're on location from my hotel room in the O'Hare something.
Yes.
Something Renaissance.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is that if you hear any airplanes, it's because we're very close to the O'Hare airport.
Very close.
We are here. Why are we here, Joe?
Well, we have just come off the Global Leadership Summit.
The Global Leadership Summit, where you were one of the closing speakers, the closer,
Yes.
a closer.
A closer.
I like to
A
think
closer.
that you were a closer.
So, which was amazing. So much fun.
Oh, it was really.
Oh my gosh.
It was really fun. Thank you for letting me come with you. I just loved
Absolutely.
it. I'm such a nerd about the behind the scenes about stuff like this.
She really is.
I'm like, look at what they're doing. What's happening? Oh, check that out. Okay, wow. You know. So, and
It's
I don't mind free food either. So that was good.
No, I don't mind free food when it's as lovely as that.
Yeah. So thank you, GLS folks, for the wonderful food and hospitality.
Yeah.
But you did great. It was so fun.
Thank you.
That was your first time at an event kind of like that one, really.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a new space for you, but really great. I feel
Enjoyed
like
it.
your voice was perfect for that. If people aren't familiar with the summit, it's focused on leadership everywhere from the church to the marketplace to
everything in between.
Everything between, and leaders of all ages, genders, shapes, sizes. And they say Global Leadership Summit because it really does is broadcast around the world, which is really cool too. So that was fun.
That was fun.
So that's why we're in a hotel
And that
room.
explains our location.
Yes. So if you are watching this on YouTube, which we have a YouTube channel, then you can see that we have this unusual painting behind us, but it's very nice, fun.
Tasteful.
And you'll also, people who are watching this, be able to see that we're going to keep looking over to this one side. And what you can't see is that we have put the notes for this episode on the mirror, with a whiteboard marker.
Yeah, and because when we say on the mirror, we don't mean a sheet of paper. There, we literally mean on the mirror.
We literally wrote on the mirror.
But it's not permanent marker, is it, Steph?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But if you can't see us, then have fun imagining everything we just said. You do not have to go to YouTube if you don't want to.
Yeah. Please.
Anyway.
We understand you have a life.
Yeah. So we are finishing up this series, Level Up Your Leadership.
Yeah.
Can you give an overview of it in case this is the first time someone dropped in?
If this is the first time, welcome. And basically the whole idea of leveling up your leadership is recognizing as leaders we are on a constant journey of growth and maturing, but we can be intentional about that.
Yeah.
We can take steps and attend to areas of our lives that will take us to the next level as a leader, that will strengthen our leadership, that will establish us as leaders, that will protect our leadership and accelerate it. And if we are going to be leading people or teams or projects, we want to do that to our greatest capacity. So, and it's very easy to get debilitated as a leader. So if we can take steps that will level up, then we're in for it. And so that's what we've been exploring, the range of ways. And often, one of the things that we've discovered and continue to discover is that leveling up your leadership is not just about intellect and it's not just about skills. There are lots of other ways which actually have a profound impact on our leadership, and that's what we've been exploring.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's been a really powerful conversation because, a lot of the speakers this weekend, part of the theme was just, when leaders aren't healthy and when leaders aren't doing well,
Affects everyone.
It affects everybody else. And nobody's an island, but the more responsibility you have as a leader, the more chances that you doing well will affect others positively, and you doing poorly or not doing well, it's going to affect others negatively. And so when we're talking about leveling up, we're not talking about getting to the next prize or the next level. I think of video games, but we're not talking about you've made it to the next level. Congratulations, you won something. It's not about winning on an external level. It's about winning on the internal level. And how do we make sure that we are always thinking about how we can take it to the next level in a healthy way. So hopefully if you've heard us talk about this, you get what we mean. The first one we talked about identity.
Yeah. Talked about the body and energy. Our energy levels. We've talked about our mental and emotional and spiritual health, I think.
Yep.
As well. And now we're going to talk about community.
Talk a little bit more about that just as a way of framing the conversation.
Well, I think it's that sense of we want to get away from the idea that us leveling up as leadership isn't just an interior process.
Yeah.
That it's only the things that we do on the inside. Now, those things are key, and like we said, we've looked and explored them, but we want to recognize as well that leveling up refers to that it takes a village. I love the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. And I've said this many times, that I also really believe that it takes a village to raise a leader, to sustain a leader, to establish a leader, to propel a leader forward. And depending on our defaults towards individualism or collective, or living by a collective and collectivism, I guess, and communal living, will establish how much we recognize our need for these things. And we've talked about this before.
It's a really important topic to us.
And so we come back again and again. So if you're new to us, I also want to recommend where we talk about building your tribe in our Maximizing Your Leadership series.
Yeah, just last spring.
Earlier this, in the spring. And it's a lovely little series. Those of you who've been traveling with us for a while, you may hear some similar themes, and we're simply building on that. But we'd encourage you to go back and check that out, and we'll put that link again in the show notes, so it can be like a complete package.
And there's a tool that we gave away.
Oh yeah.
At that spot. So, and we're gonna give away a tool today too.
Boom.
But they're different. But definitely a good foundation if you haven't thought about this topic too much. So yes, talking about our community, the people that we have in our lives that are gonna help us thrive as leaders, survive as leaders, or
and maybe not so much as leaders.
Hold us back as leaders. Yeah.
And it's worth being aware of of who those relationships are in our lives, and to adjust accordingly. So
today we're going to focus on what are these relationships that we want to look for in our life, but then what are the ones we want to avoid? Yeah, and maybe if we think, oh my gosh, I'd love to avoid them, but I'm already in them. Let this be your affirmation and confirmation that it may be time to renegotiate, redefine, and disengage where necessary. And I think that this is going to be very much an awareness. What are we looking for? I know that a lot of folks, and when I'm coaching people, their next question is, so what do I do to get rid of these toxic relationships? Or, and we can't actually answer that for you. No. That can actually be really dangerous to assume that there's one way to deal with some of these very toxic relationships. And there's also not only one or two ways to find the relationships you're looking for either, but it always starts with awareness and knowing what you can't move forward if you don't know where you are. That's great. And so if you can, I think you raise a really good point here, because in some ways what we're bringing here is descriptive as opposed to prescriptive. Right. But if it can be a springboard to your own ideas, we're listing 7 types of relationships to look for and 7 types to avoid. You'll be like, actually, I can think of 12. And if that's the case, you go, feel free. But see what sticks. And you don't have to. If these are relevant to people in your life, you'll know the names. You won't have to go and search for who that particular bad person is or anything like that. And here's some advice I want everyone to take. Don't tweet about them or write about it in your Facebook. The name. Well, no, but like vague booking. Have you heard of vague booking? No, but I have a horrible feeling I know what it is. It's actually horrible. So it's like when you say something on Facebook, but you're not really saying what you're saying. It's vague. Oh, it's actually to somebody else. Or even so an example would be something like, when people don't understand and appreciate you the way that they should. Oh, no. Please. And then you put feeling annoyed. That's vague booking. Don't vague book. So that's actually advice I will give you right now. Yeah, that we might be prescriptive. Or just straight up tagging somebody. Yeah, no. I've seen that before. No, yes, I have. You have not. Yeah, I have. I did see once a husband and wife argument on Facebook. Yeah, no. And I was like, that could have happened in an inbox. Right. So we're even face to face. So you're gonna have to figure out if you do have names that come to your head, what are the appropriate ways to even talk about that with someone else, where it's not gonna be gossip or hurtful to the other person. Yeah. But that you need to process that and you need to figure out what those next steps are. Cool. So yes, should we start with the 7 to avoid or the 7 to? I would like to end on a positive note. Okay. So let's start with the 7 to avoid. Oh dear. Okay, you go first. Woo! Okay. Pick 'em up. The first one is the enabler. So, okay, I would describe an enabler as somebody who basically cheers you on towards the things that are not good for you. Yeah, I like to call it holding your hand to your own destruction. Yeah. And so what would that look like? People, just to put more skin on that. I mean, I think if someone knows you have if you're vulnerable to a particular thing, like if someone's vulnerable in the area of alcohol, that person buying you more and more rounds of drinks is not exactly the most helpful person. No. If they know that there is a particular vice that is a problem in your life,
or if they help you with your worst habits and actually provide the means and the resources to really indulge your worst habits,
Right.
then I would say that they're enabling. Yeah.
Or if you know that you tend to come away from a situation at work and assume the worst of your coworker, and this friend just says, yeah, that person's terrible. They're never wrong. It's always they're always wrong. You're always right. You should do this and
you
that.
should do something about them.
Yeah, or not encouraging you by doing that, not encouraging you to actually have a hard conversation with somebody, or avoidance, like they're leading you towards. So it could be something as destructive as substances. It could also be something as destructive as avoidance of hard conversations.
Yeah, that's good.
Or
that's good.
an inability to confront your spouse about something, or be willing to confess something.
Yeah.
These are the people who like celebrate the things that are actually pulling you away from a more integrated version of yourself. So it can actually be kind of sneaky. Like you don't always notice it. And once again, we're gonna just assume that whether this happens in your life or not, we don't know people's motives. We don't know how they got to that place. No. So we're just talking about avoiding these types of relationships, and or putting up boundaries with these types of relationships. Maybe avoiding altogether is unrealistic, but putting up healthy boundaries. But we're not trying to make character judgments about people we don't know. We're just saying that if that's what the output is of their life, regardless of their motivation, that's going to be unhealthy for you.
And it's going to be unhealthy for the leader that you're seeking to become.
Yeah.
There we go.
Totally.
Next one?
Next one. Go ahead.
Thinking of enviers, the ones who envy your gifts, your talents, your skills, your opportunities, and they'll let you know that they envy. They'll let you know that they kind of disapprove of it, and their comments and their reactions to you will be made out of envy.
Yep.
Sometimes it's found in the put downs, the negative things that are said to you when they're trying to
jokes that are like not that funny.
Jokes that aren't funny.
Yeah.
Often done in public so that everybody knows. It's just an awkward, difficult, and it's kind of painful.
Right.
And maybe and you know, envy is human, and so it may be that people are envious for a little while, as you've had an opportunity that they wanted or they haven't had. That you've had access to things that they haven't had.
Doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't seem fair to them, but you know, and that can happen in life anyway. But when that reality goes to a direction where they feel the need to put you down as a result, then we're going into a different space. Because there are times when you can say, "Oh, I wish I had that opportunity," and that's just someone reflecting their heart or what they would have desired. That's not them necessarily being envious of you in the way that we're describing. We're saying because they have this sustained attitude towards you that they're not resolving, they seek to put you down as a result.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Well, and even if they don't put you down in super public ways, it can be like just very, it can cut you to the core, even if they say something privately. Yeah. Like, because what you need in your life is people who can celebrate when you celebrate and mourn when you mourn. So the envious person has an inability to celebrate with you in a way that they need to.
And they have an inability to help propel you forward in the workplace. So if that colleague takes the credit for your ideas, or if that colleague is friendly to you in public, if that colleague you had a conversation confidentially about something that you were wrestling with your boss, and they confide with the boss about it or bring it up in a public space, because they know it will put you in a bad light,
and they'll get promoted,
and they'll get the things that they'll get the credit, the affirmation, the recognition that they felt you had, but they felt they deserved. That's a whole other game.
I also think the envier misses the opportunity to see how your life isn't. It's often they see other people's life like they have it all together, everything's working out fine for them, and so then they can't be the kind of friend who understands that nobody's life has it all working out.
Almost blinded by.
They don't see the struggle. They can't see the struggle.
They can just see what you have and what they don't in that moment.
Okay, next.
Which leads us to our next one,
which is the deflator of dreams. The deflator of dreams. These are the people who, you're trying to figure out how to talk through what are your goals and your dreams, and sometimes those dreams are huge. You know, like they might not be reached, but you're trying to think like, well, what's the big goal? So then, what are my next steps? Yeah. If this person is consistently keeping you from having those conversations by either dissociating when you're talking about it, changing the subject, telling you that can't be done and you can't do this and you don't care, stuff like that. I mean, this can really become I think all of these are true, where you don't even realize it's happening. that much.
Yeah.
Where you don't even realize, oh, yeah, that person kind of just checks out when I talk about the thing that's really on my heart.
Gosh.
That I really care about, that I want to try to do. Or they start talking about another person that did it and it didn't work.
Oh yeah, that's another one. And I think there's a two-way thing we can do in terms of being responsible about this, in terms of what we avoid. But I think there is also a time to share your dreams.
Right.
And there's a time to, sometimes it's worth holding something a little for a while before, so that you feel a little bit more confident and stuff, so that regardless of someone's response, because sometimes people deflate out of worry or anxiety or surprise or whatever, and they may not be the deflator of your dreams type person all the time, but when they first say something like, oh, how are you going to make that work, kind of thing, they might be inquisitive and have questions and all that kind of stuff. But if they're doing that 6 months later, there is a conversation. But I've often heard entrepreneurs and pioneers describe like having dreams and saying, I've just heard the odd interview where someone has said, in the beginning, I didn't tell people straight away. I just had to kind of get confident and know what I was thinking through and know what I was working through, because when they presented it to someone, that person didn't automatically deflate it because they'd seen your communication, you thought it through.
Yeah, so don't mistake somebody who's actually just a critical thinker for a dream deflator. But
I love the phrase dream deflator.
Dream deflator.
One of my favorites.
And then also make sure that your dreams and the person that you're talking to, the other thing is it affects that other person sometimes. So like if you're talking about, so for instance, if I'm talking about a dream at work and it sounds like my dream that I have could mean that I might not work here anymore. Well, that's going to be disturbing to other people, and that might even be true. But you could see how that might cause some insecurity, and so someone might be like, "Oh, you can't do that," and it's like,
do that.
but recognize that this is maybe kind of at the core of this conversation. Our leadership affects other people in our life, and we are affected by other people in our life. And so, once again, the motive might be actually kind of pure, but just notice when that's happening so you can address it with that person.
It's good.
So avoidance doesn't mean cutting them out of your life. Avoidance means having boundaries to avoid that person. When we say avoid this type of person, we're saying figure out how to have healthy boundaries or talk about it with them.
I mean, you might still be in a relationship with them, but you just might not talk about your dreams that often in their presence.
And give them
until it's established.
And maybe talk to them about it. If you're close enough to them, say, hey, this is how this feels. Use some I feel statements about that.
Is there something going on? Is it unhelpful for you when I say these things, or what is is it a reflection of dreams that they didn't see fulfilled?
Themselves.
Next one, the codependent drainer.
Sorry, these are just so bad.
This is why we're starting with the negative ones. If you're still with us, if you're still here, thank you for your perseverance.
Some people have already just turned it off and been
you have become.
I've got too many.
This episode is the codependent drainer. This episode is the deflator of my dreams. This episode, all of these things, you have become it. Joe and Steph.
Joe and Steph, you're deflating my dreams.
You are deflating my dreams so hard. My gosh.
That's good. All right. Codependent drainer.
It is all that it feels like as you hear it said. That's what that person is. Oh my gosh.
So the definition, I don't know, I'm not going to be using like the DSM, psychological definition, but
we're not professionals.
No, we're not. We're not therapists.
Even though we are here on vacation,
we're professional people hanging out in hotels with microphones. Okay, so my definition of codependent would be relationships where one person needs the other person or perceives that they need to, and the other person needs to be needed. So there's this kind of, when we say codependent, it's not the same as interdependent. That's good. Interdependent is healthy. We know where one person ends and the other person starts. Codependent is this person has high needs. The other person starts to develop like a need to be needed in that way. And then maybe sometimes those roles switch. That's just like a pretty rudimentary way of talking about it. But that's a drainer because that is actually sucking the life out of both people. It seems like it's supposed to be a supportive thing, but it actually is draining both relationships. And it's kind of like you're pouring, if you feel like you're pouring into somebody, like we use the phrase pouring into, like in a good way. And it's like this person is a water bottle with a hole in the bottom and what you're pouring into is just coming out the other side. That's codependency.
Oh my gosh.
That's what's happening.
Oh my gosh.
And then it's obviously one way, typically.
Because you've got a limited amount of resources. So if all your resources is going, then you're going to feel empty. And ineffective. Isn't it?
And it's a little sneaky sometimes because it can seem like the person who's in the water bottle that's empty, that person can sometimes come across like, oh no, but look, I do this for you too, and like there's this sense of like, no, we are partnering. It is, but it's like no, that's not really what's happening. Are there times where somebody in your life has high needs? Sure,
absolutely.
Are there times where you're that person that needs a lot?
Oh yeah.
We're talking about consistent patterns that turn into. It feels like you're trapped in this cycle, in this relationship. You can't get out of it.
Ooh.
So
that was a good one.
Next,
moving on to our next optimistic relationship to avoid, the downer.
The downer. Sometimes the Debbie Downer people.
The downer.
What was that? What TV show was that on?
Saturday Night Live.
Was it an SNL?
Yeah. Was it Rachel Dratch?
Yeah, she was funny.
She is funny. She's not.
I actually was in a like a parody show once. We were raising money for trips or something, missions, and I played Debbie Downer. It was really hard. Not because I'm always positive, but because her character is so strange.
It's just so miserable and weird.
Yeah, so the downer.
So, I mean, again, I think this word is as evocative as it is. So they are the person who is not just the deflator of your dreams, they'll be miserable about them and tell you all the things.
And they're miserable about themselves.
And everything. And it's like they walk into the room with a cloud.
Yep.
Under a cloud, and then they share the cloud with you.
Yeah, and try to get you under the cloud.
And get you under the cloud. And so you are planning and strategizing about the places you want to go and the things you want to do. Someone who is consistently negative about all the things that you're doing, they're doing, the world is doing, the whole time is doing, just may not be the most life-giving relationship to have in the village that you're building that will sustain you.
I feel that I want to make a confession.
Okay, I'm slightly nervous.
No, I think you know about it. So I've sometimes created on my phone like memes that I don't think I can ever post. And the reason that I think I can't post them is that someone's gonna think it's about them, as like I'm calling them out publicly, which I'm not, but I might be.
Yeah, but
but like
she's on her phone.
Okay, but so one of the memes that I have is of Daniel the Tiger. Who I love Daniel the Tiger, if you don't know about Daniel, since he was a part of my life when I was a child watching Mr. Rogers, and now he has his own cartoon. Anyway, Daniel the Tiger is trying to give helpful life advice all the time. So on a picture of Daniel the Tiger, I wrote, if you want people to like you, you shouldn't complain all the time. I mean, it's just a simple statement.
It's true.
But if you complain all the time, like, people might not like you. That's what it says. So it's like Daniel the Tiger's waving, and it says, if you complain all the time, people might not like you.
Okay.
Like, people might not like being around you.
I mean, it's a very true statement. We should. The slight dilemma we've been on location is that we have to check out of this hotel soon. Oh, so we should carry on.
We'll keep going.
Also, how long do we want to leave people in this negative space before?
This is a good point. Let's keep going. So the next one is the distractor.
Yeah.
So just people who are always kind of pulling you into something that they've got going on
for their
agenda, for their dreams, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's
on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are okay in moderation, or just in the human interactions. These things happen.
Yeah.
It's when it becomes the pattern, when it becomes the always, when it becomes the expectation, and when you're filled with dread because they know these sorts of things to do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always strength, grace, and frankly maturity for us to handle the one-off. It's the 1 year. It's the
right.
It's when people are like that for no legit reason.
Yeah.
And stuff. Like if someone's having a really hard time, and they've had a devastating year, and they're actually envious of your year, you get that they're having a really hard time.
Right.
If you used to be involved in some project together and you helped them as a one-off, then they're like, okay, could you help me with this? But when it's the ongoing expectation that your job is to help
them
do their things all the time,
and
that their vision for your life, they know the plans they have for you, and that plan is to help
you to help them,
all the time, and all the things, whether it's financially, time, and energy. Is there a boundary you need to put around that?
Yeah. And then the last one is the deceiver.
Yeah.
I mean,
they lie.
People who lie.
They lie. They're using you.
Yes.
People who use you.
I do believe that lying can be a compulsion that people are struggling with and they need to work through. But it doesn't really matter what's going on that leads to them being deceptive. Yeah. They are dangerous people for you to be around.
Yeah. And it's dangerous for you. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just bad.
It's just bad for you.
So if people are lying,
if they're deceiving you and manipulating you to their own ends, and we might see some of those traits and all of the other things before, But if that's what when you discover that's happening,
yeah,
boundaries.
Okay,
Confirm.
Can we please move to the positive ones
Okay.
now? Okay.
Let's talk about the relationships to look for as you're building your village. And that will help strengthen you in your leadership. And how you can say, these are my people. These are the people I need. Number one is the encourager.
Yep.
You know, one of the greatest things after doing GLS was I got back and I was surrounded by a really great team. My bestest friend of 25 years or so leaves a message for me saying, I'm so proud of you, I'm really happy for what's happening in your life, all these sorts of things. And I thought that's how she's always been.
Yeah.
From the day I met her when we were 18, she has always been a massive encourager. You need your cheerleaders in your life who will encourage and give you strength. I've heard many a sermon talk about how encouragement brings courage.
Yep.
So yes, have an encourager. Next one.
The next one is empowerers. Empowerer.
Yeah. So I'm dancing.
Yeah, we've used a few different kind of titles for people who are empowering. Mentor, sponsor. But these are people who embolden you, empower you to step into things that you haven't done before, which is a little different than a cheerleader saying like, yeah, you're doing it, way to go. An empowerer is like, what's next? How can you get there? What do you need? Let me tell you what I've experienced. How can we give you how can we, how can you grow in your confidence? How can you grow? So it's all this, I feel like an empowerer is a very, it's practical, but it's not so much about giving someone tools as much as giving someone the ability, the confidence, the coaching, the sense of exposing them to other things so they can see what they could do, that kind of stuff.
There's some kind of authority thing that seems to come around with empowerment.
Yeah, totally.
You know, that helps people step into the authority they have and the power they have.
Right.
That an empower does.
Yep, absolutely. So then the next one is equipper.
And when I think of an equipper, and let me know if you feel something different, I think of the skill set. Someone actually giving you, showing you, this is how you do this. Yep. These are the skills that you need. Right. And almost like a trainer in some ways. Right. And hugely valuable when we're growing as leaders. Right.
So someone who's just to differentiate, an empowerer might be like, you are ready to lead a team. You can do this. Oh no, I've got the first time that someone's going to be a direct report. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, we believe in you.
We believe in you. Here's how I know. An equipper is going to say, here's 3 tips on how to lead that meeting.
When you start that meeting, try this.
Here's some things to do with your direct report. That's an equipper. So that's an example. The next one is truth teller.
They tell the truth.
This is important for us to just...
And yet, we've got...
Right.
And one of it's so obvious, and yet, it's very easy as leaders when you are the person who holds people's jobs in your hand, futures, opportunities in your hands. People may want to tell you what you hope to hear, what you want to hear, in the way you want to hear it. Why? Because their jobs are in your hands, and they've got bills to pay. Right. Or they want your approval because you might put them forward for promotion and all that kind of stuff. And if you are completely surrounded by yes people, you will become a pain in your whole life.
Right. So here's just a moment of clarification though, because if we have self-deception, then we might mistake a truth teller for a deflator of dreams. Yeah. Or a downer. Or even an envy person. Yeah. But there's got to be an increased ability to try to differentiate between those.
Yeah, and I think if you preemptively build those kinds of relationships, you'll be able to see them because there'll be people who you know.
You need to know them well enough to start to get at their motives. Because if a truth teller is telling you that because they love you, that's very different than somebody's telling you that because they're anxious. Yes. Or they're telling you that because they're envious. Or they are negative people. Yeah. So the truth teller is the person who's willing to say the things that nobody else will say, that maybe even nobody else is noticing, but because they're, honestly, I think it's like a gift that some people have to discern that kind of stuff and to say that kind of stuff. So that's a really important role. The next would be the deep question asker.
We call this, one of our friends, a woman called Kim.
Kim Whetstone, for you. This is you. The deep question asker.
And I think that everybody needs someone who can ask questions that make you think and reflect on yourself, and help you excavate what's going on within your life. Whether that's an internal issue or whether it's actually a dream or a vision or a strategy that you just need to dig for a little bit.
Right. Yeah, just asking like, how is your soul? How are you really? How did you feel when that happened? Yeah. You might be going off about something that happened and you're like, oh, that was so annoying. And they might say, interesting. So what's beneath the annoyance? Yeah. Okay. But you need those people who do that, or who at least ask enough questions so you get to the depth. Actually, these types of people can actually be very different in their approach. There's some people like Kim who's very direct with their questions, and then there's other people who actually the way that they get you to the depth, it's like, I don't even know how you got me here, but you totally did. And that is so good. Yeah. So then the next one is presence people.
How would you describe that?
I describe these as the people who, a lot of times we use the term ministry of presence. It's like Job's friends before they started talking. But there's just these people who can come and be with you.
Who show up.
And maybe these people aren't asking you deep questions right now because that's not what you need. That's not where you're at. But they have a ministry of presence. And I feel like names probably come to people's mind.
People who just keep on showing up for you.
Yeah, or have in the past. And if you don't have those people, that's really important to be looking for.
Yeah, oh gosh.
They show up sometimes with food, sometimes with, do you want me to just go for a walk with you? I don't know. It depends on who you are, but identifying what that looks like and what you need in that way, I think is a really important type of person in your life.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
And then last but not least, we have
your prayer people. And they pray for you. They pray for you.
Yep.
They pray for you in the good times and they pray for you in the bad times. They are the people who you can send a text or an email to and just say, hey, could you cover me? They've got you back prayerfully in this. And for those of us, I mean, obviously we're talking as Christians in the context of our faith and how huge it's been, but the level of spiritual support cannot be underestimated.
No, it can't. It can't be underestimated. So for me, I actually have a text message group. In the past, I've had email group.
Yeah, I have an email group.
The reason I
have a bit of both actually.
Yeah, the reason I did text this season is just because I know that then I'm going to be more likely to keep them up with real time, and that has felt more important in this season.
Yeah, that's good.
But then there's just the people who are present with you in real life who when they say, I love the people who say when you ask for a prayer request, they say, "Oh, great, can I pray right now?"
Yeah.
It's like thank you actually, even if it's like slightly awkward because you're in a public place, whatever. It's like just let them do it.
Absolutely.
Or don't be afraid to ask them.
Yeah,
the right people.
It is hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard.
But it's worth it.
But it's so worth
do
it. Okay, so there's our 7 types to avoid and 7 types to look for. We're gonna put it on the show notes.
Yeah.
We actually created a little resource for you so you can go get that from the show notes. There's a link, but it will go to our website, leadstoriesmedia.com/resources. And we would love for you to have that free gift to you because I think this is that important.
Yeah, and I think it's the sort of thing where we can reflect on and ignore. And we want you to actually go from that place of observing those things and getting to a point when you're able to identify what's going on in your life and finding a way forward.
So we're going to leave you with just a few questions then. So if you don't have a chance to get the resource right this moment and you're driving or you're running or you're washing clothes, listen to these questions and just ponder these things. I think this could be helpful. So the first question is hopefully obvious. When it comes to these categories, who do you see
living in them?
Yes. Do you have names for the 7 types to avoid? Because that would be something to pay attention to.
Particularly if one name comes up in a number of ways.
Yikes. And if you have, do you have names for the 7 to look for? Do you see people in those roles?
Yeah.
And don't be discouraged if you have people in either. Just start. The best step is to start with what
building.
Yeah, and knowing where you're at, which is what you're doing.
Yeah, and
take
cultivating those good relationships.
Take inventory of that. We've talked about this a little bit in different aspects of this topic, but just the idea of loneliness and how isolating leadership can be. And so if you're feeling lonely, consider what parts of your life.
Yeah, where? Because we can feel lonely in the midst of a crowd of people. We can be someone who's actually very content being on their own, and that's not where the loneliness stems. It stems from being misunderstood. It stems from the toxic environment at work, or not necessarily the toxic environment, but the fact that you are, and again, I've mentioned this loads of times, the first only different, that Shonda Rhimes in The Year of Yes talks about, and in the context she raises it, she's talking about being a woman of color who's a showrunner, and she refers to Mindy Kaling as well, being the first only different in her world, and I think for those of us who find ourselves as the only one in the space in which we're leading, it's possible to say that you love the working relationships you have, and you're lonely too.
Yep.
I mean, it's not shading the people you're working with. It's not undermining those relationships. It's just identifying that there are some things that they simply couldn't appreciate because they don't have to encounter life or experience life the way that you do.
And I've noticed in times there's been the other way around too, where I'm feeling actually well supported at work, and I've got lots of great relationships and friendships, and I feel like we're really jiving. But I'm feeling lonely for my friendships that are not people that are under my that aren't under my leadership in that way, and paying attention to that. So that's the next question, is just paying attention to like rate yourself on loneliness in those
Yeah.
different spaces, and then what's the root of that, and how to deal, and what are next steps with that.
Yeah,
Which I guess the final thing is
2 steps.
Yeah.
What's 2 steps? And we were like going to say initially over the next month, and then we're like, well, if you've got some really unhealthy relationships, perhaps there's something you need to consider doing about them in the next week.
tomorrow. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, or at least
Yeah.
having a plan,
At least
starting to
formulate a
identify.
plan. We've got to
Yeah.
identify some
Yeah.
things.
Yep. And then so the steps might look like a conversation with someone. They might look like taking time to journal through these. It might look
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen. I don't know.
It
But
may be like you haven't seen that encourage a friend for ages, and it's like, that's time.
yeah, let me tell you what happens if you don't take us seriously about this next steps thing.
Oh dear.
It's going to be like a few months from now, and you're going to say, I remember when they brought this up in this podcast. and this person who was kind of slightly a deflator of dreams, like took a dream from me. Or this person
gosh.
who,
Oh.
or I knew I needed these prayer people, but
Oh.
now something really has happened and I really need them. So
Yeah.
that's why we're encouraging you that.
Yeah.
So check it out.
Your community matters.
It really matters,
These
you guys.
things will help you level up your leadership. There's no doubt
Level
about
it
it.
up. And so head to leadstoriesmedia.com/resources or to the show notes where we'll have this all listed for you.
Mm-hmm.
This has been good. It's been a good
been good.
conversation. Thanks for being
Thank
with us,
you
everybody.
for joining us on location.
Bye.
Bye. I'm actually going to run now because we check out in about 5 minutes and I've got to sort my bags.
But they just don't